All right, what's going on, family? Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs Series. I want to continue examining 100 years of world championship fights. We're going to pick up where we left off with Joe Louis and Max Baer. Now, these two men would get it on in New York's Yankee Stadium, Monday, September 23rd, 1935. And what you're looking at here is the Kansas City Journal-Post. It was the main page of that newspaper. And everyone was astonished. They were really excited, but shocked, because Joe Louis was a 2-1 favorite to defeat Max Baer, because he had already defeated Primo Carnera in his New York debut in Madison Square Garden. Now, what this fight did, it gave Joe Louis a false idea that the former champions that he would face would be over the hill. And I believe he let his guard down, because he'd already knocked out Primo Carnera in the 6th round in Madison Square Garden, and he knocked out Max Baer in the 4th round in Yankee Stadium. So in 1936, when he would face Max Schmeling in New York's Yankee Stadium, I believe he had an idea he would just go in there and knock him out. So let's complete our viewership of Joe Louis and Max Baer at New York's Yankee Stadium. As you can see here, Joe Louis was a 2-1 favorite to defeat Max Baer. And it wasn't really a shock to many that he would defeat him. But the issue was, how would he defeat him? I don't think that was thought out quite well, because I didn't think they thought that would happen to Max Baer. Max Baer was the hardest right-hand puncher in heavyweight history up until that point. And they just didn't think that would happen to Max Baer. So I'm just showing you the headline paper of the Kansas City Journal-Post. All right, let's continue watching the fight between Max Baer and Joe Louis.
6 feet 2.5 inches tall. Well, an unloading of punches here from Maxi Baer.
Now we're picking up the 2nd round of this fight, and Max Baer has a false sense of security because he believes he can overwhelm Joe Louis. Joe Louis will have none of it, and that was very important for Joe Louis to behave this way, because it puts Max Baer on the heels of his ideas that he is not the man in that ring that night. Joe Louis bangs with both hands, body and head. Very important for a young fighter to behave this way, especially when he's fighting a veteran, because the veteran understands what he's in the ring with. Beautiful right hand by Joe Louis, and the round is over.
The bell ends the 1st round. Champion Max Baer. Baer from California originally. Joe Louis, of course, from Detroit, Michigan.
Look at the jabs of Joe Louis. Beautiful, right on the point of the chin. It's important that Joe Louis continues to move, and he bends, and he used the jab. He has to confuse Max Baer. Max Baer is the taller man, beautiful jab by Joe Louis.
He's presenting quite a lot of the target to Joe Louis, most of the time, right shoulder's quite far forward. Louis, as you can see, is giving a
beautiful short left hook. Parries the hand out of Max Baer away from his face, and he continues the jab.
He's quite far forward, simply because Baer wants to land the right hand.
This is the tutelage of Jack Blackburn. Joe Gans would constantly jab when he was on the heavy bag. Oh, beautiful combination by Joe Louis. And he never stops throwing the hook, if you notice. Jab to the chest, jab under the heart, jab to the chin. Keeps his man in front of him. Now, the reason why Max Baer shoved off Joe Louis, he wanted to see how he would behave.
You may remember that Max Baer...
And Joe Louis continues to behave like a constant professional. Oh, beautiful jab.
To Jim Braddock.
Jabs to the head, he jabs to the chest. And the reason why Max Baer is getting hit with these jabs, he's standing straight up.
There's a cracking finish to round go. So Joe Louis.
Now Max Baer comes out to Joe Louis, but Joe Louis goes right to Max Baer in a straight line because he wants him to understand I'm here to stay.
See now, all the height advances that
beautiful jab by Joe Louis. The only issue Joe Louis is having right now is dropping his left hand.
Joe Louis really was an excellent technician.
And Max Baer is doing a lot of dirty work on the inside, healing and rubbing the back of the glove of Joe Louis's eyes. Joe Louis still responds as a professional. When Joe Louis was a young man, perhaps 3 or 4 years old, he fell out of a treehouse. And he would break his clavicle muscle on his left side. And that's the reason why he has problems keeping his hands up. If you notice when he goes back to his corner, especially as he gets a little older, his arm is wrapped behind his back. Oh, beautiful jab by Joe Louis. As he picks off the punches of Max Baer, he consistently jabs. Beautiful display of boxing by this young phenomenon. Oh my God, beautiful, beautiful. Larry Holmes took a page out of this book. He would have to, because this is a beautiful display of jabbing from a heavyweight.
To play on the inside.
Oh my God.
Calmness personified here.
Nice body punching. Good, but oh, beautiful jab off the hook. Beautiful combination punching by Joe Louis. Uppercut, left hooks, punches to the body, and Baer goes down with a right hand on the top of the eye.
Slow motion fall there from Maxi Baer. We are in round 3.
Donovan picks up the count.
Does beat the count.
Oh, beautiful. Watch this triple left hook. Now he does an uppercut with the right hand, and he follows up with a triple left hook and puts Baer down again. Baer saved by the bell. Now let's watch this fight in slow-mo.
Replay here then. Slow motion replay. Maxi Baer under severe pressure here from Joe Louis' left hook, particularly
underneath the right hand. Comes over the top with a 2 right hand. Punches over the top of Max Baer's left hand. Beautiful sequence by the young phenomenon.
For Max Baer.
Donovan picks up the count as Max Baer begins to rise.
So Baer gamely rises to beat the referee's count, but only to find Joe Louis in a very aggressive mood. He tore in to Baer, unloaded the left hook, 3, 4, 5 of them on target.
Oh, beautiful leaping left hook. Now he has him right where he wants him, uppercut. Left hook behind the uppercut. He sees Baer's hand is down. He consistently
when they land,
throws the left hook
against the target.
Oh
3
my
there
God.
in a row. Baer on the floor again.
Beautiful combination by Joe Louis. See, it's all technique. And Joe Louis shows you his technique. Tutelage of Jack Blackburn.
In attendance here at the Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Massive crowd. They were on the floor twice in the 3rd round. The first time from a right hand, the second time from 3 tremendous left hooks.
This would be the last round. Now watch the jab by Joe Louis. He's trying to set his man up to get him out of there. He has to do it behind the jab. Max Baer is a taller man. Oh, beautiful, beautiful jab.
Left hand of his own.
Oh, beautiful hook off the jab by Joe Louis. Look at that combination. And he has to continue to follow Max Baer. He has to push him around a little bit. Every time Baer moves, Louis moves. Beautiful hook off the jab once again. And he lowers it to the blood basket. Oh, beautiful right hand, left hook combination. Has to hit him under the heart again.
Joe Louis the kind of guy, if you're in range, he'll hit you. And he won't.
Beautiful jab by Joe Louis.
to feel the weight.
He shoves Max Baer's hand away from him. Something you see Lomachenko do today. If you watch the old school fighters, everything you see these guys do today, they have watched the film. Because this is what was done at that time. Beautiful, beautiful. You'll never see these combinations today. You don't have the trainers to show them. Beautiful combinations by Joe Louis.
Nothing Baer could do to get out of the way of these very, very damaging punches.
Very short punches on the inside.
And of course, what Louis' best punch is, the left hook or the right cross. Because he's equally good in both departments. Good defensively as well.
Beautiful feints. Oh, good jab.
In that left hand, smacking into the face of Max Baer.
He's trying to get Baer to lower his right hand. Oh, beautiful.
He really threw that one with venom.
Beautiful.
Right hand again, and he's got
Baer will not get up from that. This fight is over.
Well, the big question here, will he beat the count? The count is 7-8. It's all
Baer says no more.
all over. That again.
Look at this
Joe
sequence.
Louis' right hand, an
He
absolute
feints him,
cork.
goes over the top of Max Baer's left hand, comes back with a hook.
Faltered there, took a left hook to help him on his way down.
And Baer realizes that Louis is going to hit him again. He goes down.
But the referee picks up the count.
When Donovan picks up the count and starts the count,
Able to beat it.
Baer realizes that's enough. And he weighs off
So the referee
Oxford
just ensuring
Donovan.
that Joe Louis is in a neutral corner. Louis, a very disciplined individual, not only when it comes down to boxing, but also in sportsmanship. Although, as I have said, he did have a reputation of being a fairly dirty fighter at some point. So the referee then picked the count up at 5 when he made sure Louis was in the neutral corner. Carried on. Maxi Baer couldn't beat it at 10. So Joe Louis then, the winner in 4 rounds of a scheduled 50.
Jack Dempsey comes over to attend to Baer.
Of course, a delighted winner.
And you'll always find Jack Dempsey on the opposite corner of Joe Louis, even when Joe Louis fought Max Miller.
Attention, please. The time, 2 minutes, 50 seconds. 4th round, winner is Louis.
Again, he is 10 seconds at the end of the 4th session. Joe Louis, a 4th round winner by knockout, impressively, over Maxi Baer. Didn't he do well? Of course, the end of Max Baer's career. So lots more to come from him. So almost 90,000 people witnessed Joe Louis' destruction of Max Baer there in 4 rounds. That after an initial flurry from Baer, all belonged to Joe Louis.
October 4th, 1935, three-weight division champion Tony Canzanieri holds a victory over Al Law, 15 rounds, in Boston, Massachusetts. He would remain the lightweight champion of the world. October 21st, 1935, featherweight champion Freddie Miller defeats Vernon Cormier, 15 rounds in Boston, and he remains the featherweight champion of the world. November 15th, 1935, Cisco Escobar defeats Lou Salica, 15 rounds in New York, and he regains the NBA Bantamweight Championship of the world. Number 1935, Escobar faced the following men. Juan Zorrilla, Mexico City. Lose to him in 10 rounds. Now, Juan Zorrilla would be knocked out in 3 rounds by the great Ike Williams for the NBA Lightweight Championship belt. May 28th, Escobar would face Joey Archibald, New York. He would stop him in 6 rounds. Joey Archibald would lose his featherweight championship belt to Albert Chalky Wright. Joey Archibald would face Cisco Escobar, May 28th, 1935. Also that year, Escobar would face Johnny Banks, June 21st, Brooklyn, New York. He would stop him in 5 rounds. August 7th, he would face P. Santalo, Montreal, Canada, in Quebec. 12 rounds. He would defeat him. The NBA Bantamweight Championship defense. August 26th, Lou Salica, NBA Bantamweight Championship belt. It was in defense of his title. 15 rounds. And he would lose that belt to Salica. But on November 15th, Lou Salica, NBA Bantamweight Champion defense. And Escobar would defeat him. 15 rounds. And he would re-win the World Bantamweight Championship belt. What a ride between these 2 men. But on the night of November 15th, 1935, Cisco Escobar would defeat Lou Salica. He would regain what was rightfully his, the NBA Bantamweight Championship belt. Escobar is to your right, and Lou Salica is to your left. They called him the Coney Island Brooklyn Boy. November 29th, 1935, Barney Ross would take a 10-round victory over Severino Garcia in Chicago. Now, at the age of 14, Barney Ross would decide he wanted to fight. But when he was 2 years old, he would move to Chicago from New York with his family. Ross had lost his father to Al Capone's loan shark. When he had trouble keeping his weekly payments on a grocery store loan that he had borrowed from the crime family. He wanted to have a business for his family. So when Barney Ross was 14, mother suffered from a nervous breakdown of what was happening in the lives of their family. His sister would go to an orphanage. Barney Ross would win the Chicago Golden Gloves. And he would really make something of himself with Barney Ross. And he would have a 3-fight war with Jimmy McLaurin, but he would defeat Severino Garcia. November 29th, 1935, Chicago. Would eventually lose his crown in 1938 to the great Henry Armstrong. June 23rd, 1933. September 18th, 1933. He defeated the Junior World Welterweight Championship. Between 1934 and 1938, he held the welterweight championship crown until he met Armstrong. But Armstrong was just too much. For I must say the aging Barney Ross was at the New York Madison Square Garden Bowl in Long Island City. Barney Ross, when he moved to Chicago, he became a Chicago boy, but he was originally from New York. He was just 2 years old when he lived in New York. But Chicago would be his home. He would spar with the likes fighters of Ray Miller, who was a dynamic puncher. He was taught the tricks of the trade from Ever Hammer. But Barney Ross was quite a fighter, and him and Seferino Garcia goes to show you how quality of a fighter Barney Ross was. He would take on the Fargo Express, Billy Patrol. A couple of videos back, I showed you the fight between Barney Ross and Billy Patrol, and how Barney Ross was able to maneuver Fargo Express in positions that would be most suitable for himself. Well, salute to Barney Ross, Seferino Garcia. November 29th, 1935. It was in defense of his championship belt. December 13th, 1935, Joe Louis stops huge Spain heavyweight Paulino Escudon, New York's Madison Square Garden. The 19,945 spectators would be at the Garden because they wanted to see exactly what Joe Louis had to offer. And Paulino Escudon was a former butcher. He was named the Wood Chopper. He was the youngest sibling of 9. Referee Arthur Donovan steps in the 4th round and saves Paulino Escudon, who has never been knocked out until he met the Brown Bomber. Escudon would retire after the fight with Joe Louis. He was never KO'd before that fight. Judge Charlie Lynch and Marty Monroe would have Joe Louis winning every round. Joe Louis was 21 years old. He had 22 wins and 18 knockouts. Stood 6 foot 1.5 inches and had a 76-inch reach. Paulino Escudon was 36 years old. He had a record of 49 wins, 16 losses, 3 draws, 33 knockouts. And he stood 5 foot 10 inches. Faced Joe Louis in Smelling, Wills, Baer, and Canera. When he fought Harry Wills was somewhat over the hill. But he couldn't handle the punching power of Joe Louis. And a side note to this fight, Max Schmeling would come to the States to watch this fight because he was being honored for something else. And it was because of this fight he would have the famous saying, "I seize something." And what he saw was the right hand of Joe Louis. After it was delivered, the left hand would actually drop because his shoulder was not in coordination with his hand. So his left shoulder and his right shoulder reacted differently. Schmeling figured if he can time him, he can shoot a straight right counterpunch over his hand. And he did 72 times within 12 rounds. We'll get to that fight. We get to 1936. December 20th, 1935. Middleweight Jack McAvoy. He knocks out the NBA New York's middleweight champion, Eddie Babe Risko. New York's Madison Square Garden. That was a championship title match. 2 minutes and 48 seconds was left in that round. The referee, Billy Kavanaugh, would step in and stop the action. Baer Risko was smashed with an overhand right, was cracked in the jaw, and he visited the canvas 5 times. Risko was 24 years old. He stood 5 foot 10 inches. He was a middleweight and had a reach of 72.5 inches. 27-year-old McAvoy was 5 foot 9.5 inches. He was a middleweight, had a 73.5 inch reach. Now, Jock McAvoy, who is he? His name is Joseph Patrick Bamford. Born November 20th, 1908 in the United Kingdom. He died November 20th, 1971 in the United Kingdom. He stood 5 foot 9 inches. He was a light heavyweight with a 73-inch reach. And he fought from 1927 to 1945. He had total bouts in his career of 147 fights, 132 wins, 14 losses, and 88 knockouts. He defeated young Joe Laughlin, Len Harvey, the British Commonwealth middleweight championship belt. I wanted to show you Len Harvey. Len Harvey was a very good fighter in the United Kingdom. He would face Len Johnson. I showed you in a few videos back. Len Johnson would handle Len Harvey virtually with ease. Len Harvey was a hell of a fighter. He really was. He's underrated. I mean, you had Len Harvey and Jock McAvoy. You had a lot of good fighters in the UK, but Len Harvey was known. Milligan, all those guys. January 15th, 1936. Welshman heavyweight Tommy Farr defeats Philadelphia light heavyweight, the Philly Phantom, at the Royal Albert Hall in London, United Kingdom. His name was Tommy Lachlan. Weighed 191 pounds. And every newspaper thought that Lachlan had won. 7 out of 10 rounds. But the fight would be given to Tommy Farr. And Tommy Farr would eventually get a shot. In fact, he would be the first title defense of Joe Louis's crown in 1937, after Louis would knock out Jim Braddock in Comiskey Park and become the second black heavyweight champion of all times. And Tommy Farr would carry Joe Louis the distance, and for that, they would believe that Joe Louis couldn't punch. Amazing. Farr would go at it with Max Baer, Jimmy Braddock. Tommy Lachlan, would get it on January 15th, 1936. It was at the Royal Albert Hall, London, United Kingdom. On July 21st, 1933, Tommy Farr would defeat Randy Jones. British Boxing Board of Control, light heavyweight title. It was at the Empire Theatre. He won a Commonwealth British light heavyweight and British Boxing Board of Control heavyweight championship belt. Tommy Farr was known as the Tony Pandy Terror. Was born March 12, 1913 in Wales, United Kingdom. He died March 1986 in Wales. He was 72 years old at the time of his death. He stood 6 foot 1.5 inches. He was a heavyweight, had an 81-inch reach. Fought from 1926 to 1953. He had a fighting record of 142 total bouts, 86 wins, 35 losses, and 24, I should say, stoppages. So Tommy Farr will be examining the fight with him and Joe Louis, and perhaps Max Baer, a little later on in the series. January 17th, 1936. Heavyweights Charlie Ratliff would go in one round in Chicago when he'd be clipped on the chin by Joe Louis. 72,341 spectators came to Chicago to watch this fight. Charlie Ratliff was faced James J. Braddock, May 13th, 1932 at the Boston Garden. And that would give everyone an idea that he may be the right opponent for Joe Louis. He used to be a car salesman. And he was introduced into the Hall of Fame in 2015, Minnesota Hall of Fame. Charlie Ratliff was born October 28th, 1903, North Dakota. He died January 4th, 1970. He boxed for 6 years and had a total bout of 74 fights. He would win 61 of them, losing 8 and having 3 draws with 54 knockouts.
Louis, to the right of your screen, has been a professional for a little more than a year, but so far he's undefeated and has